recidivism and mental disorders through prison freedom programs. According to a recent study, among 6,561 inmates from the Indiana Department of Corrections, 48% returned to prison within 5 years of being released. In another study, 68% of its prisoner population returned to prison within just 3 years of release. Finally, a third study says that the percentage is even larger, that the national rate of recidivism is actually 76.6% of all prisoners. More than 3/4 of prisoners are returning to prison once again within just a few years of their release. Of this large percentage, those between ages 18 and 25 are 10% more likely to return to prison than those between ages 35 and 45. This may be a result of the ever-growing number of prison and jail inmates, many of whom are in the younger age range. Between 1972 and 2007, for example, the number of people incarcerated increased by 413 per 100,000, and that number has barely dipped since. Perhaps more alarming, among those who are incarcerated, about 1 in 7 experience some form of severe mental disorder. A study led by Stephanie Ott, expert in forensic psychiatry and psychotherapy, determined that long-term prisoners, those sentenced to at least 5 years, demonstrated the same level of mental distress as psychiatric patients. Of the various mental disorders, the most frequent prisoner conditions labeled as needing psychiatric care are depression, psychoticism, and paranoia. Other disorders have been reported in high numbers as well, such as antisocial personality disorders, which are more common among men than females. This is comparison about 50% to 20%. Regardless of the disorder, the longer an individual sentence, the more likely he or she is to develop one or more of these severe mental disorders. Most concerning is that this percentage of individuals with mental and personality disorders is much larger for the prisoner population than the general population. Michael DeWilde, a Grand Valley State University professor of humanities, suggests these mental disorders, which often lead to the high recidivism rates, are a result of the lack of resources available to prisoners during their sentences. DeWilde states that the deprivation prisoners face is the primary cause of prisoners losing their humanity. One resource prisoners have been deprived of over the years is literature. While many prisons have built libraries, according to researchers Jillian Ellern and Karen Mason, these libraries appear like local thrift stores with leftovers, older and unknown authors and titles, duplicates of currently popular titles, and a general hodgepodge of cast-off books. Such books do not inspire prisoners to read. Even if prisoners do choose to visit the prison library, solitary reading will never be enough to significantly reduce rates of mental disorders or recidivism. Socialized reading programs, on the other hand, do have this power. Though library access may promote solitary reading, the more favorable option is to implement prison reading programs in which prisoners are actually interacting with one another. Beyond access to books, prisoners should be granted opportunities to read, think, and speak. When reading becomes more than just passing time, participants make improvements mentally, emotionally, and even sometimes physically. Thus, reading will only reduce rates of recidivism and mental disorders if it is strategically paired with social interaction. And if these problems are solved, the rest of society will gain a greater respect for former prisoners as well as pay fewer taxes. Due to time constraints, I will be discussing just 2 primary prison reading programs that have proven to decrease these rates. In fact, one organization determined that prisoners' involvement in its program decreases participants' rate of recidivism to just 6%, a dramatic 70.6% decline from the nation's average. This particular organization, called Shakespeare Behind Bars, brings literature to life for prisoners through acting. Rather than simply incorporating prison libraries through this program, prisoners are granted opportunities to read literature, such as Shakespeare's plays, and then perform scenes to other prisoners and even sometimes public audiences. Prisoners are also permitted to write original songs and monologues. Whether it be a play, song, or monologue, this program is extremely beneficial. They require prisoners to work interactively, problem solve, be responsible and compassionate, and to think both critically and creatively. Beyond simply reading independently, Shakespeare Behind Bars provides more involved opportunities, urging prisoners to develop character, friendships, and motivation to contribute to society. Other varieties of literature programs have been implemented as well, often in the form of shared reading, in which prisoners are reading provided books during their own time or during designated meeting times. During these group meetings, which usually occur about once a week, prisoners are given the space to share their ideas and feelings related to the text. Not only do inmates actually attend their meetings, but they tend to reveal progress and various therapeutic implications that are used to treat mental illnesses. For example, some books allow for prisoners to think critically about their past and how that has affected their life today. Skills such as these are vital for coping with mental disorders like depression. As a result of such opportunities through group reading programs, many participants indicate increased well-being, self-worth, feelings of accomplishment, and social interaction, according to a study by Josie Billington. Professor DeWilde, whom I spoke of earlier, facilitated one such program in Muskegon Correctional Facility for 15 years. Slightly different, his program involved Grand Valley students who read and participated in group discussions with the participating prisoners. Inmates involved reflected on these experiences, saying that for those 2 hours a week, they were actually listened to and felt respected, feelings of normalcy they had not experienced in a long time, if ever. Prisoners described this sense of normalcy as a result of the sharing part of the program. They felt empowered rather than overlooked for the first time in a while, simply because they experienced respect. Most people who have never experienced time in prison take conversations for granted. They talk aimlessly for hours on end to friends, family, and even sometimes strangers, and that's just another normal day for them. But prisoners' conversations are viewed as luxury. If they can be vulnerable and listened to, even for just a moment, that is a major success. Though a genuine conversation may not seem triumphant, these moments give prisoners a sense of value, reducing both psychological issues and recidivism. While DeWilde's program and Shakespeare Behind Bars, along with several other prison reading programs, have successfully been implemented in recent years, it is no easy feat to do so. Program facilitators still face several challenges. These include prison policies, such as extensive literature censorship and bans, and only allowing books from a limited number of vendors at times, making it challenging to bring a variety of quality literature into prisons. Also, policies state that books cannot be shared among prisoners, causing some facilitators' literature to be counted as contraband if found in possession of someone other than its owner. Furthermore, facilitators have struggled to determine a best structure for their programs, as well as what types of literature to provide and how to maintain enough funding for this literature. While these obstacles all too often remain in place, they fortunately can and have been defeated by many programs. Facilitators have discovered that it does not matter so much what or how prisoners are reading and discussing, as much as it simply matters that they are participating in these activities. Therefore, censorship becomes less of a challenge because facilitators have endless choices of literature they can attempt to provide to prisoners. When it comes to struggles of possession, facilitators can deflect this by beginning program meetings with discussion of rules of the group, such as responsibility and ownership, encouraging prisoners to take responsibility of the literature they are provided. Finally, facilitators have the ability to overcome funding frustrations, but this requires the help of both you and me. Because the government does not yet fund prison reading programs, we must take the initiative to help facilitators acquire materials, primarily books, notebooks, and pens. Books can be expensive, but if people in the community partnered with prison reading programs, facilitators could gain enough monetary and material donations to run their programs indefinitely. If we want prisoners to achieve high mental health and maintain recidivism rates as low as just 6%, opposed to the current 76.6%, it is our responsibility as a caring community to help prison reading programs promote quality of life for prisoners both before and after their release from prison. As a result, lives will be changed, a more positive view of the former incarcerated will be cultivated, and taxes will be lowered. Immense improvements for the well-being of our society. Thank you.